us now. We have by video conference Clément Chartier, President of the Métis National Council. Thank you for being there with us. I know that we have a little bit of a time change with you, but it's really helpful to have you here. Can I just check we can hear? Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure I had sound. So why don't...
your sound.
Perfect. That works. So why don't we just get started with your presentation, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, as you know, I've appeared before your committee in the past, and I've given an explanation of the Métis Nation, the people, our geographic territory, and so on. So I won't get into too much of that, other than, again, to reaffirm that the Métis Nation is a distinct people. We have a distinct language known as Michif, although many of our people still speak other Indigenous languages. For example, in the Métis village of La Loche, the Métis there speak Dene. In the Métis village of Île-à-la-Crosse, many speak Cree. In other provinces, particularly Manitoba, many of our people speak Saulteaux. So it's not only the Michif language that's important to us, but Michif is the official language of the Métis Nation. And of course, our nation is located in Western Canada. I know the legislation also addresses that there's a need to redress grievances or historic wrongs, and the Métis Nation is no different. We remain to see reparations by Canada, particularly with respect to the relocation of our peoples within our homeland. We became internal refugees within our own homeland, dispossessed of our lands and resources, were the subject of a unilaterally imposed system which extinguished so-called extinguished, which we dispute our title and rights to our lands and resources and to our harvesting rights. So we have, I guess, reasons to celebrate this bill going forward, and in particular, we also suffer the consequences of residential school. As I've mentioned in the past, I was a former student of the Île-à-la-Crosse boarding school. I was there for 10 years. We still have yet to be dealt with by Canada. And of course, many of us were, severely affected by that experience. We're also victims of the 60s scoop and exclusion of many federal programs and services provided to other Indigenous peoples over the years. But finally, with the Daniels decision in 2016 and the federal government clearly being viewed as having a responsibility, or at least a jurisdiction, to deal with the Métis on a nation-to-nation, government-to-government basis. So I think we're currently on a level playing field, and that's a good thing. And over the past 3 years, we've seen unprecedented growth in the relationship with the Government of Canada through the current Prime Minister. We have the Permanent Bilateral Mechanism, which for the first time in the history of the Métis Nation led us to Budget 2018, where we are now in a substantial way on a distinctions-based approach provided programs and services to citizens of the Métis Nation, services we did not have in the past. And of course, we're looking forward to Budget 2019, where we're hoping that we will have, further allocations to the Métis Nation. So we've waited a long time for this to happen, and it's finally happening. And we're particularly pleased that this government has engaged us on a nation-to-nation, government-to-government basis through a partnership as between us in areas such as co-development of legislation. This particular piece, the Indigenous Languages Bill, which hopefully will end up being an Indigenous Languages Act, which was co-developed, as I say, between the national representatives of Indigenous peoples and nations, the Assembly of First Nations, the Inuit Tapir Kanatami, and the Métis National Council, the national government of the Métis Nation. I think it is unprecedented. And we have been engaged in a meaningful way, not just consultations, but actual co-development at both the political level and at the officials level. And with that, I sincerely thank Minister Joly and Minister Rodriguez for the work that they've done, and to the Prime Minister for his accepting at the outset that he must deal with us on a distinctions-based approach, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Nation, and also, recognizing Section 35 as a full box of rights, and that the inherent right contained therein includes the right to our languages. Over the last 25 years or so, the Métis National Council and its governing members, particularly the Métis Nation Saskatchewan through the Gabriel Dumont Institute and the Manitoba Métis Federation through the Louis Riel Institute, have been working quite diligently on looking to recapture our language, to revitalize our language, to get and promote our languages being spoken once again. Unfortunately, we have, I would say, less than 1,000 fluent Michif speakers in our homeland, and many of them, or majority, are over the age of 65. The Gabriel Dumont Institute has been doing a good job, as has Louis Riel Institute, in capturing on video and through audio, the language, also producing videos and printed materials to help promote the language. And I notice Member of Parliament Georgina Joalibois from the riding that I live within in Northwest Saskatchewan present, and she'll know that the Métis village of Ile-Lacrosse has been very active in ensuring that the language is kept alive. This year they're celebrating their 20th anniversary of language in the school, and so it's a big year for them. In terms of this piece of legislation, this act, I believe it is something that will be of significant benefit to Indigenous peoples and nations, and in particular to the Métis Nation. We know that it will assist us or enable us to be further engaged with promoting our language, preserving our language, and having a space within Canada in the larger picture. But language is so important. Our cultures are so important. And this is where, again, I come back to what I've said before. The Métis Nation is not a people of mixed ancestry, perhaps initially, but we evolved as a distinct people, as a distinct nation, with our culture, our language, and our political consciousness. So we are a polity. We are a cultural group. We're not simply people of mixed ancestry, which a notion we totally reject. And of course, we know that there are others in this country now stepping forward, claiming the label Métis, and we just want to ensure that this doesn't confound matters as we move forward. And just in closing, I just again want to remind the committee that the Métis Nation will be celebrating, and I use the term celebrating because over the past 3 years we've had such tremendous progress with this current government that we can celebrate, not just mark the 150th anniversary of the Métis Nation joining Canada through the Manitoba Act as the 5th province of Canada, but we can actually celebrate because we have cause to celebrate, and we look forward to celebrating the 150th anniversary of the Canada-Métis Nation relationship next year. So with that, I'm prepared to respond to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And it was